How's it going, gentlemen? This is your main man, Scott McKay, coming at you again with another episode of the Mountaintop Podcast from X and Y Communications. I am your host, Scott McKay, and you can find me at Scott McKay on YouTube, on TikTok, on Truth Social, and on X. And if you want to find me on Instagram, you're going to need to put a reel in front of the Scott McKay because it's at real Scott McKay. I'm on Threads too, but stay off it. It's terrible. It's like just a bunch of people complaining, which is pretty much the opposite mindset of our show. So just don't go there. Find me on X or come join the Mountaintop Summit Facebook group is what you really should do. The website, as always, is just like you see at the top of this if you're watching the video, mountaintoppodcast.com. That's where all the goodies are. And speaking of which, I have a new friend of mine, first time guest, and she wrote me vehemently wanting to express her multitude of opinions on how men are nowadays, what women are really looking for. And if I know you guys, I think you're going to like what you're about to hear. Cassie Lee is my guest. She's from Tampa, Florida. She's a journalist, an editor, and an author. Welcome, Cassie. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Scott. Thank you so much for having me on here. Following up with what you said about, having some very strong opinions. I definitely do. And I can't wait to dive right into them.
Well, I think based on how mellifluous your voice is and your general appearance, I think most guys are ready to just listen to you read the phone book. It won't matter. But I'm going to respect your intelligence enough to fully realize that you've got a lot to offer here. What made you really passionate about this topic? And go ahead and speak up, speak loudly, let these guys hear you, and don't be ashamed of it, because I have a feeling a lot of guys are going to be ready for what you have to say. So let the fur fly, Cassie. Have at it.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, let me just say it is awful being a traditional values type of lady in the world of dating in America today. I mean, I don't know if this is a problem in Europe. I don't know if this is a problem in Asia, but in America, oh my goodness, I have had the worst experiences with guys. And I think, you know, one thing that really gets me is that I've been on tons of dates, and those have only turned into a few actual relationships. Um, and it's just because, like, it's usually like the first date, and then I'm like, no, this is not going to work. And I'll give you an example, okay? I went on a
Yes.
date with a guy once, and we had just been talking, like, we had like mutual connections, as far as like what we did in the industry. So he had mentioned something about like, oh, you went out with so and so at this one point. What happened to that? And I mentioned, I was like, well, that's not really like something that I wanted to pursue. And then he like slipped in this comment that like, oh, well, that guy could have dated like supermodels. And I was like, from that point on, I was like, that was so mean. Like, okay, I know that I'm not a supermodel. I am not, 7 foot tall. I'm not super skinny, but like, come on. Like, we're on a date together. Like, I don't know. It still sits with me, and I'm still upset by that.
Well, not like most of us as men want to go date the female version of Victor Wembanyama or like Brittany Griner or some other assorted 7 foot tall female human being. I would guess that that guy just simply lacked self awareness on a couple of fronts. Lacking self awareness is not exactly confidence inspiring to women, because you want a man who can provide and protect. And that's what really turns women on at the primal level. You're not going to disagree with me because no woman ever has. You're already nodding your head. So here he comes. He, first of all, wants to talk about your last boyfriend, who he happens to know as an acquaintance. Awkward. Okay, first of all. Second of all, who cares about the last guy? He's in the rearview mirror. Now you're sitting in front of him. What is there to talk about? Am I onto something?
Yeah. And well, yeah, I am just like at a loss for words because like I said, I'm still mad about it. And it still really hurts. And I still don't really understand like why somebody would think that that was okay to say. But I like your take on it that like he just lacks self-awareness. Like I truly believe that maybe it wasn't a malicious uh thought.
Probably
And it
not.
just kind of like spilled, yeah, and it just like spilled out of his mouth. But it stuck with me and I am forever scarred by it. And that's just one
Scarred.
story. That's just one of like a million.
Well, you seem so
Yes.
resilient.
Scarred.
I mean, he said, well, that guy could probably date supermodels. And you said you're no supermodel. But I'm not sure, Cassie, most guys want that supermodel anyway. What society is telling us is that's the ideal feminine. We want 5'10", fake boobies. Somehow she's 5'10", 105 pounds, and is a double D. I mean, this woman doesn't exist outside of a plastic surgeon's office. And most men, I think, are looking for someone who's cute and sweet and treats them right and gets along with them. And I just think it's really a bad look for this guy to sit in front of you and, first of all, to comment on a woman's looks in any negative way, shape, or form is bad enough. But I'm not sure a guy should compliment a woman or talk about her looks up front anyway, because it just makes him seem so shallow. You're obviously a very pretty girl, very pretty woman. You know, who wants to be a supermodel, frankly, right? So you are a type. You're going to be a lot of guys' type. And I'm sure you've got just as many guys who sit in front of you and fawn over your looks. And the first thing you think of is, it's all this guy cares about. Here I am. I'm under here. I'm intelligent. I'm personable. I may have the same values as you. And you like don't even care. Have you seen that pendulum swing the other way before? Rhetorical question.
Yeah. You're absolutely right about that. And I do agree with you. But again, it just kind of goes back to that same like whenever you have these interactions with men as, a woman, it's so, I don't know, off-putting. Off-putting is just a really good way to say it because it's like, who's teaching these men to, date? I don't
Well, we're
understand.
doing
I
the
don't
best we can
understand
around here,
where
but
they're
alas,
right, but not everybody, unfortunately, listens to this and they need to.
not yet. Give me time.
I would appreciate that. But yeah, that's just
Sure
one
you
that was
would.
actually relatively recent.
Great. It seems like everybody's lost their social chops nowadays. I mean, going out there and being social in and of itself is a bother to a lot of people. I mean, you've got AI girlfriends coming. Guys are thinking, well, my goodness, the porn is so good, and I've got an AI girlfriend. Why go bother with someone who I actually have to pay for this date when I'm sitting in front of? Why can't I just sit home and have this game come to me? Why even consider someone else's needs in a potential relationship? And you see that a lot actually when people do venture out in the real world, Cassie. What they're starting to think is, hey, what's in it for me? I've got another human being in front of me, but here are my goals. Here's my agenda with having a relationship someday. And this person, is going to have to agree to give me what I want. That is like the de-evolution from that transactional relationship mindset we've seen for about 10 to 15 years now, where people are getting together thinking, okay, this is a business deal. All right, you want a baby. I want to have sex every other night at least, hopefully more than that. You're going to look good at my business functions, Christmas parties, and make me look good in front of the guys. Yeah, well, you're going to buy me a Mercedes Benz because the Lord won't. And it just becomes a big business transaction. The whole idea of connecting with someone, being married to your best friend, as well as someone you're hot for, people are like, I've met people, Cassie, who literally can't relate to that. They're like, I don't understand what you're talking about. But you want more guys to start thinking old school, don't you? I see this coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Transactional is the perfect word for what dates are like today, and that's another thing that just drives me crazy. I was raised by somebody, my father, he's actually a retired police officer now. Not that that's necessarily relevant, but
Was he a shotgun on the
he's
porch dad?
no, actually he
No.
wasn't. He
Okay.
wasn't, but he does say that like I have a very weird type of men. So I don't know, maybe that's telling you something. Um,
Not the weird
nonetheless,
kind who tells you you're no supermodel on the first date. That's weird on another trajectory, isn't it? Do tell. What's this weird type of
yeah,
guy you have?
I don't tell him everything about the guys that I date, but the guys that I have brought around him, he's definitely been like, is this what turns you on? Like I don't see it.
Oh,
And
that's
I
our
think that
job
that's
as a dad.
because yeah.
Why can't
Yeah,
he
you're
be more like
absolutely
me,
right. It is your
Cassie? I mean,
job
you
as a
know,
dad.
right? Yeah.
Well, I think he sees that a big issue I've had with a lot of guys that I've dated, and this is something that he has said to me personally. Um, he doesn't understand why these guys are so cheap and not even cheap, but also just freaking lazy.
Gen Z, right? This is the stereotype. Everybody's door dashing their way through life. The idea of having an adventure is foreign to these guys, let alone doing work and putting themselves in harm's way for some reason.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Guys today, I saw recently somebody said they're in their sassy era. And I was like, that's a great way to put it because they want everything that women used to get. Um, but they also want a woman who still does traditional woman stuff, right? Like they want us to clean, they want us to do the dishes and raise babies and take care of the house. But they don't show up whenever it comes time to paying the bills and going out there doing yard work. Oh my God, me and my dad literally built like an entire room together. And he was like, I'm amazed that you're out here doing this. And I'm like, I'm if I don't do it, nobody else is gonna do it, Dad. Like it's me and you.
That's really an interesting take. You're the second woman this week who has used the word sassy in application to how men are acting nowadays, which is why I, you know, withheld erupting in laughter, because it just hit me it struck me when you said that my goodness, there's a definite mental picture you get of a guy who's in his sassy. And it's a spoiled brat who lacks any semblance of natural masculinity and doesn't really care. He thinks he's doing the right thing and showing up to the world in the way he should and the way he's expected to. Meanwhile, the women are going, ew, yuck, right? And they don't want anything to do with that guy. But it's like almost every guy has that weird sense of entitlement vis-a-vis a complete lack of self-awareness, like we were talking about, thinking somehow women are going to like this. Meanwhile, they want you to cook and clean and make babies and be all conservative and stuff. And they just want to sit on their couch and play video games and, hopefully work a remote job and have them send checks for sleeping in every morning. And that's anti-masculine. And the problem with that, Cassie, and I don't think I'm educating you here, I'm just furthering the conversation as I promised we would pre-roll, is that I just think men think women don't want a masculine man anymore. They've been kind of taught by the media to believe masculinity is toxic, do better, and doing better means neutering yourself. Meanwhile, the women are stereotypically going around and going, where did all the men go? Where's this guy who can at least make me feel safe around him, like he's got this thing handled, like he's got a plan not only for tonight's date, but for his life ahead. I mean, what am I hitching my wagon to? How are we going to walk through life together if this guy doesn't have a map? Because if he thinks I'm going to come up with the map for the man-woman relationship, he is sorely mistaken because he's the man and I don't want to man up in this relationship. You're probably perfectly content as gritty and as self-reliant as you apparently are. and knowledgeable and smart, you don't want to wear the pants. You want a partner. And these guys just aren't stepping up and showing up, and they're showing up on dates, physically, but not showing up and showing out. And they're thinking that this neutered, watered down version of their persona that has no masculine effect is somehow going to be attractive, when masculinity is what attracts femininity. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. I 100% agree with you on all of the above. Um, and it is getting to the point where, like, I'm so sick of men not showing up for what I need them to show up for, that like I'm just learning to do everything myself, like picking up a drill.
Uh,
I don't even ask my boyfriends or whoever to like check the oil in my car. Like I just take it to Walmart now. I do everything, everything. And this is the case even when I'm in relationships. I mow the lawn. Like I've had to do that. I've had to take on the role of the man as well. And it's exactly like you said. It's like I want somebody who's a partner, not somebody that is another liability. You're not my child.
all right, so let's go there. You are obviously sitting in an environment that has a lot of male toys in it. I think I see a Marshall amp in the background, but looks like it could be some guns and, a bass. I just see the headstock of the bass and some things behind you that are very
No guns.
masculine. No guns. Okay, so I'm seeing something else way in the back there that resembles a gun pack. All right, so not to throw the poor guy under the bus, but you're broadcasting right now, podcasting right now from his man cave, and you told me yourself, not in secret, that this feels like a roommate relationship. You two are firmly in what I would term the just be roommates zone, which is an iteration of the just be friends zone, of course. And you said you've talked to the guy about this and he just won't budge from it. Can you elaborate what's going on here? Because this is something that transcends simply having the balls to ask a woman out and go out on this first date. Um, what's going on there? And I want to preface that because I see you kind of saying, "Oh goodness, we're going to go there." I saw your body language there. You're going to have two kind of guys who listen to the show. You're going to have guys who are fans of the show listening to this show going, "Can I have her phone number? I'll rescue her from that guy. I'll show her what a real man's like." And they would do that. Okay. Then you have then you have guys who are going to stumble on this show, upon this show, or they're going to go looking for this show because they don't like me. They want my message to be quashed. Why? Because they're men going their own way. They're angry at women. They think everything is women's fault. Victimhood, blame, blame, blame all the women. And they're going to want to say to you something like, well, you know what? If she wants this guy who's going to step up and be this perfect Ken doll and be all that and do all the paying and do all the work, well, then she can just die alone. But that's not what you're saying. You're saying you're ready to be all woman for the right guy, but he's got to do his part too. And most guys who understand how masculinity and femininity vibrate together in that good way are all for that. They've been looking for a chick like you. But what's up with all these guys out there who just get upset and bitter when they hear a woman talk like you? And how does that enter into this roommate conversation you've been having with your current beau? Yeah, I went there.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting situationship. That's probably the best way that I can,
Okay.
say that without being too mean. Um, I think I speak for a lot of people who are in situationships whenever I say, like, whenever your life gets so intertwined because you've been with somebody for, years, it's hard to just leave. It's hard to just pack up and go. And that's kind of like where I'm at right now. Like, thankfully, we do not have any kids. We're not married. But we do have animals and we have, a a schedule that we've kind of like come up with that's just very comfortable. And I think that's kind of where, I get stuck with it. I'm like, it's just kind of comfortable at this point, even though I don't like it. Um, but yeah, it is very much so a roomy situation. And I have had the conversation with him many times where I'm like, we are not like in a relationship. Like he works different hours than I do, so we hardly see each other, even though we live together, we hardly see each other.
Yeah.
He sleeps all day during like the weekends and stuff, and I'm a bit of an early bird. Um, and it just doesn't feel like we're partners. It feels like we're roommates and we split the
What's
bills.
missing,
He makes
Cassie?
more than I do, but it's it's rough. It's rough. It's literally like we're roommates.
Well, what exactly is missing? Or do you not know? It's his job to figure it out.
No, it's there's a lot missing, Scott. There's a lot missing. The intimacy, the partnership, like I said, like I'm the one who goes out and cuts the grass. Like if I ask him to do that, he will throw like a little hissy fit, okay? Um, Mind you, he will do the dishes. He will do some of the other, you know, girly household chores. But like anytime I ask him to do like something manly and like he doesn't want to do it on like my time schedule, like I get an attitude.
And you're willing to do your part in all this.
Yeah, well, what do you mean? Like my part?
Well, in other words, whatever you find to be missing, you're willing to, do your half of the relationship's worth of the heavy lifting to get to the point where you want to be. You just don't have a willing accomplice yet.
Correct.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think a lot of guys, regardless of who we are, and this isn't something that's recent, that's been part of postmodernity and how men have been kind of counseled away, brainwashed away, frankly, from being masculine in the traditional sense, as if it's toxic. That's changing again, by the way. We don't get too political around here, but I think the last election cycle, and not only the number of men, but the diversity of men who switched parties, it was a referendum on being told not to be a man anymore. It's really what it was. And when you saw Tim Walz up there being presented as a man's man and he couldn't load a gun and he thought a pick six was a legitimate football play, the guys just said, no, we're not buying into it. It isn't any sexism against Kamala Harris. It's just, can I please be who I'm allowed to be? Because if you're not going to appreciate my authenticity, then I'm just not voting for you. And maybe the options weren't the best in either direction, and they haven't been in any election cycle, in my opinion, since last century, frankly. I don't know why these people position themselves to be president. You're looking at 18 of these people up there during the primaries and are like, can I have a 19th option, please? Can I go off the book? Can I buy a vowel? You know what I mean? And yet, women are still, in many ways, very cynical about how men are. And it means that, and vice versa, there's a lot that's happened with women, women trying to adopt the virtuous masculine role by stripping men of all masculinity, telling them it's all toxic, then they hijack it. Now we want to be the one to wear the pants. We want to be the providers. We want to be the protectors. Unless it means going to war or dying or something, then, screw that. But it just shows you how superficial and how comfortable our entire culture has become. Obviously, the more blessed you are, I don't know if this is obvious to everybody, but the more blessed you are, the more complaining you do. If you're scrambling, if you're out there hustling, ain't no time for complaining. But nowadays, men and women want to complain against each other. There's pressure on the birth rate. There's pressure on marriage. And, I'm sure you're sitting there going, I don't even want to marry this guy, even though we live together. Well, that's by design societally. Men are always going to like their setup. Okay, that's primal. I've got my girl, I've got my base, I got my man cave, I got my amp, I got my job. And I'm not immune to this. I could go trade in my pickup truck, but I've been driving the same pickup truck for 14 years because by God, that's my pickup truck. My wife can flip her car every 2 years and get something completely different for all I care. But I like my setup. My office, with the addition regularly of more BMX trophies, thanks to my kids, it's pretty much the same. I have to force myself sometime to leave my comfort familiarity zone and go do something different. And you're talking to a guy who travels all over the world and has a pretty fun job and loves adventure. But even I like my setup. So once guys get nice and comfortable and everything's taken care of, they don't want to rock that boat. They don't want to, kind of play brinksmanship with that just for the sake of it. But what gets left in the lurch is you, Cassie, because you have needs, you have a desire to do something different than what his setup has dictated. And if you're not being heard, then you're not being connected with in that relationship. Does that sum it up?
Yes, it really does. I think you kind of really hit the nail on the head there. And really just that last part that it's like they're comfortable. And I'm not just talking about him. I mean, this is like every single long-term relationship I've ever had. It's that they're comfortable. They don't really have to work for anything. And I will say society has a lot to do with it because they have been told, that I don't know what the word even is. It's bad to be a man
Bad
and
works. That's a good
to,
enough word.
hold the doors. Well, like even the most benign things like holding the door or like pumping your gas, like that, they've been told that like that's bad. Like you're basically saying that like she can't do it herself. It's like, honestly, I don't want to get out of my car. I don't want to get my shoes wet. Like sometimes I just want to sit there and be lazy. Okay. I wouldn't mind. I would not mind if he got out of the car and pumped my gas for me. Yes, I can do it. I know how to do it. But like, even just like holding the door for me or, obviously like the paying the bill whenever we go out, like I feel like that should be expected. And here we are, society has been telling men and women alike that, women are weak if men do that, and men are bad if they do that. And it's like an entire, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but a clusterfuck. It's a clusterfuck, okay?
Okay. It's not okay, but the swearing's okay, but the fact that it is that is not okay. All right. So what are you going to say to men who say, all right, well, she talked about him being lazy and then she just said she'd like to be lazy. Let's assume for a second, just for the sake of conversation, that your current boyfriend gets a brain transplant and a heart transplant, and he becomes this guy who's planning adventures and fun, spontaneous surprises, and he takes care of business, makes you feel safe. How's that going to affect your response to him? You're not just going to stay lazy and let him do all this stuff. Obviously, there's a part of you who's just dying to come out and express herself. What would that look like for the right guy?
Ooh, that's a loaded question because I've never been in that situation before.
Well, what do
Um,
you think? What's the part of you that wants to come out and blossom and express yourself? Obviously, you're missing out on some feeling of authenticity here. What would that look like? Dream a little. It's okay. I understand habits can form, but you're a bit disgruntled. So what would gruntled look like if this is what disgruntled looks like?
Scott, I'm gonna be honest with you, and what I really want is somebody to be a partner in the same things that I want in life. So if I was not disgruntled and I was gruntled, I think what would make me happiest is if we had the same vision and somebody who wanted to share the same dream that I have, which it's really dumb, but like I just want to live on like a little farm and have like a couple of animals and, not stress out about sharing uh the finances and stuff. So
You
for
should
me,
turn
it's just
lesbian and marry my
somebody.
wife. That's what you should do. You two are perfect for each other.
I keep hearing women say that like that's why they are lesbian, and I'm like, maybe you're onto something
I
because
wasn't on
these
anything and I
guys
was
just are
not being
not
serious
it.
in the least. By the way, disgruntled is a weird word, isn't it? It's one of those English words where you can have that prefix of dis in front of it, but not without it. Gruntled isn't a word, but you can certainly be disgruntled. Just like you can be unraveled, but I've never heard the word raveled used by itself. Have you?
Um, I think I think I've
I think
heard
the answer is
raveled,
no. Well,
maybe.
rabble? We can be a
Like
rabble
you've
rouser, but that's with a B instead of a V.
oh, maybe not.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. English is a very
And
strange
complicated
language. Just like
language,
men
yes.
these days, they're
No
strange.
rules. Well, I think men and women are both pretty easy to figure out. Men want to be appreciated, and actually, men want to feel safe too. They want to know that you're not going to cheat on them, that you're not going to embarrass them in front of their friends. We're easy and a little bit different in the safety and security department. We want to be able to trust you. What happens is, though, men don't feel any need at all to be a provider and a protector anymore. And they've been told that's obsolete. That's so 1950. And indeed, if you do open a car door or walk on the outside of the curb or anything that's considered chivalrous, right? You're just insulting women. And that's not what it's ever been about. This overreaction, frankly, by feminists to try to demonize anything a man would do, that indicates his masculine nature, up to and including the point of them saying or proposing that masculinity and femininity in and of themselves are nothing more than social constructs designed to keep women down, and terms like the patriarchy and everything. There's a lot of really well-meaning guys who are like, I didn't do nothing to nobody. I certainly don't want to be blamed for that. And as we all know, it's very easy to weaponize a term that would signal a certain person's state of mind. Like, you're a misogynist, you're a patriarch, you're a racist, right? You're a communist. These extremist terms, and what it does is only the good people who mean well fall into line and kowtow and kowtow to that accusation and try to prove they're not. Like if you go to David Duke in Louisiana and you go, "You're a racist," he'll go, "And?" Because he's not trying to hide he's a racist. I haven't heard from that guy in years, but he's the first real racist who came to mind. But if you're not a racist and you don't want to be a racist, and someone accuses you of being a racist, you'll do everything you can to acquit yourself of that accusation. So you have a lot of men out there who are being accused of being men, and in an effort, as twisted and sad as this sounds, to acquit themselves from that rough accusation, they neuter themselves and try not to be anything male anymore. And meanwhile, the women are like, okay, heterosexual female here, nothing's turning me on, fellas. Where you at? Right? Meanwhile, you have a bunch of men who meet women, and the women are starting to act more like men, and they're starting to resent men, and then perhaps reactively, which is anti-masculine in and of itself, men go, well, if you don't like men, we don't like you either. And then basically everybody descends into something virtual instead of something real connecting to each other. It's very sad. And I would say that, yes, men need to be the leaders here. And the first guy who steps up to the plate acts like a man and presents himself to a woman as a man who can provide and protect. And sometimes it's just being warm and light and helping her laugh on a first date so she feels good being there. Yeah, you pick up the check, right? You open the car door for her. She's going to go, wow, actually a real man. But most men have gotten to the point where that feels like an insult to them to go through those motions, because the assumption is going to be made that the woman's going to give me nothing in return. But that's not true. I think it's fascinating that you're kind of at a loss for what that world would look like. It's almost like you're a dog chasing a car. And what would happen if you caught the car? It's like, wow, I haven't thought that far yet. And I don't think that's an indictment upon you. It's just you kind of never been in that position yet, so you're not sure how you'd react. You know what I mean?
Yeah, honestly, even just hearing you say that, it's like I have had like a couple of guys, like not people that I'm on a date with, but like older guys, that I was just around, like,
Go
open the car
figure.
door for me. And I'm just like, what the heck is that? Like, is that normal? Are they like trying to hit on me in some way? I
Right,
don't know. Like, I don't
exactly.
even
It's
trust
so
it.
it's so anathema to society nowadays that you're like, okay, is this guy gonna try to swindle me into joining his downline in Amway? I mean, what's the hidden agenda here? Does he just want to get in my pants? That's why he's being nice to me. It just there's no awareness of someone actually wanting to be genuinely male or genuinely female simply because that's in their nature. That's how they were raised, and they know it works. Damn it, it works. All the guys who aren't being the guy you're suggesting they be, or they're feeling a little bitter, or they're angry at you for even suggesting it because you're just going to use me and take all my money anyway and be a gold digger. More for me, man. More for me. And I'm really sad you're not finding the kind of guys you want to find out there, and that you've had this train of bad dates and you're in the just be roommate zone. I mean, it's awful, but you are not alone. And if there's any mic drop to this particular episode, Cassie, it's got to be, look, guys, there's a world of opportunity out there. I mean, listen to her. Look at her. Go find you women who you resonate with, who you're going to connect with. They're out there. They're as afraid to admit they're who they are as you're afraid to show who you are as a man. But if you're just honest about it, I think the feminine world would rise up to meet that energy. And let me suggest something, Cassie. I'm not going to hold it against you, the whole dog chasing the car thing. And I know that's a rough analogy and you don't deserve it. Because I would guess that if a guy started showing up and being a man, you'd want to do nice things for him. You'd say, you've been so sweet. You've taken me out on 5 dates and you treat me so nice. Now it's my turn. I'm going to cook you dinner, or I'm going to bake you cookies. And there's women out there rolling their eyes and go, oh, what are you going to say next? Make me a sandwich? But a woman would like you would go, well, I make a hell of a sandwich. Get out of here with that. Right? I make a hell of a sandwich and I'm a guy. If my wife hears me doing this podcast and comes in and brings me a cup of tea going, man, that was a great show. I was overhearing it. I would feel taken care of. Hey, yeah, okay. I'm going to go out, bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, be the man, take a bullet for this family. But the woman in my life will gladly recharge my batteries as a warrior, whether that's emotionally. My wife, like you, has a very cute, mellifluous voice. I could listen to my wife read the phone book too. That's very important to me. I could, my wife just talking to me, being present, smelling nice, getting her nails done, looking cute. Obviously, not to go down this rabbit hole, but sexually, women are very pleasing to men. Women are pleasure machines. And when a woman's very proud of that, and a man takes great pride in that, that is indeed a wonderful woman to come home to. It doesn't take much from either side, really. It just takes effort. It takes a desire to connect and a simple realization that men and women are different and we're supposed to be, and this is very important, and I want to hear your opinion on this. We're not supposed to be enemies. We're not supposed to be adversaries. It's not supposed to be he said, she said, us versus them. We're supposed to be in partnership. That's how we're physically and emotionally, designed. So how do you think we get back to that? What's your opinion on everything I just said?
Well, let me
You just
just
gave me the Michaela Maroney is
preface.
not impressed look. But I think it was the I'm thinking
Let me
look
just
more than anything.
preface.
Okay.
Well, I I I don't know if I have, like I said, let me just preface this and say that, like, I feel like I didn't really answer your previous question on, like, if somebody, was listening to this and they were like, "Oh, she just wants to be lazy." It's like that. I've never been like that. I could never be like that.
I know.
And um, even with dating guys that don't match my energy, it doesn't make me a different person. I'm still me. I'm still, the carer. My mom was actually a nurse, so I'm very like motherly with things. So that, even though the guys don't match my energy, that has never changed who I was. It's just made me more like aware of what I don't want in a partner. And
And perhaps more wistful
yeah,
towards who
it
you
just
really want.
right. Yeah, it just makes me more aware. And as I get older and, I get to the age where like maybe I want to have kids, maybe I don't. It's like I need to find somebody who matches my energy but has that masculine side because it's getting hard to do everything. And I think men and women can work together to bring back that energy. I just think that it takes communication, and we've been told that communication is confrontation and that that's bad. And I
Mm.
just think it's a society problem in general. I don't know what that looks like as far as how we fix it.
Well, I think someone's going to have to risk being authentically masculine and feminine again. And I think, honestly, it's incumbent upon us as men to lead. I'm not afraid to admit that. But it leaves all you ladies in the lurch until men start showing up again. Facts. Hashtag facts, right?
I can't help but wonder if, all the plastic in our atmosphere has something to do with the decline
Oh,
in
it does.
masculinity. Like I don't
Oh,
want to
it
get into all
does.
of that, but
And you bring a good point. And the short answer is environmental factors, social factors, dietary factors, all of that, political factors, socio-political factors, all of it enters into it. And it's all basically, to use the C word, conspiring to feminize us and to keep men out of their masculine power. I mean, you're onto something there is all I'm saying. I think this has been a fantastic conversation. You're just adorable. I hope you patch things up and get out of the just be roommate zone with your guy, because I'm sure he's a good dude or you wouldn't be there. And you start, living the dream together, go have an adventure. And what I want to do is I want to point these guys to what is your Instagram site, your Instagram account. And I can do that very quickly and easily by by having these guys go to mountaintoppodcast.com/Cassie, Cassie, and it'll point you to her Instagram. That's sure she wanted to send you guys. Give her a like, see what she's up to. Cassie Lee, you've been wonderful. Thank you for your insights. I am going to admit something to you. A lot of times I have, people who are somewhat notable and have lots of alphabet soup behind their names come on the show and flex their knowledge, and they've written books and been New York Times bestsellers. But you know what my number one request is just, can you please just give me the normal kind of woman we'd actually like to date and get her opinion on things? Because they tell me, I know you can coax it out of her. Ask her all the questions that I would never ask her on a first date because it just wouldn't be first date conversation. I think that's exactly what we did here today. I'm pretty pumped. It was pretty exciting. Thank you for joining us.
thank you so much for having me, Scott, and thank you so much for letting me be vulnerable in a safe space.
Good.
It was a
Glad you felt
pleasure.
that way. Well, do you have any final rah rah speech or exhortations or uh, promises of a job well done or anything like that you want to give these guys before we sign off? Any final message?
I just want to say, I really hope that, if people were listening to this and they got anything from it, please let me know. I would absolutely love to share whatever they have to say. And I'm happy to talk with anybody that needs some advice. I'm all for promoting masculinity in men. So please feel free to also see me as a safe space for that.
Fantastic. Well, you did good. Good show.
Thank you so much, Scott. Really appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. Thank you for getting a hold of me and requesting to be on the show. This has been fantastic. And guys, if you have not been to mountaintoppodcast.com lately, you can get on my calendar, talk to me for 25, 30 minutes about what's on your mind, not only with this show, what you're thinking of the video format, but also getting your life together so that you are representing when you go out and meet women and you're looking for women who represent femininity right back at you. Hopefully this show has energized some of you guys out there who are starting to feel a little cynical and perhaps maybe even worried that women don't exist anymore the way you'd like them to. I think a lot of women like Cassie out there are just, they're afraid of getting canceled or something still if they talk like this. But, just like she said, this is the safe place for that. She's nodding her head over there. Look at that. And that to me is what it's all about. Men and women being together. If you guys want to put a plan together to put all this in action through coaching, I'm your Huckleberry. I got your back. We can talk about that too. Otherwise, you can go to mountaintoppodcast.com, download my book, Sticking Points Solved. Also, get show notes and pictures for all of our shows, and visit our three longtime sponsors, Jocko Willink's company, Origin in Maine, the Hero Soap Company, and also the Keyport. 10% off when you use when you use Mountain 10 as your coupon code every time you buy something from our sponsors. All of that and so much more is always there for you at mountaintoppodcast.com. And until I talk to you again real soon, this is Scott McKay from X and Y Communications in San Antonio, Texas. Be good out there.